Yes, people, welcome back to another episode on That Gunners Talk. And let's get straight into it as we have a long video to cover, as we covering every single Arsenal player's season so far. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Me and KP will go through every single player and give our rankings and give our debates. KP, before we start, anything you want to say to the people?
Hey, I'm just happy to be doing this, man. Transfer season, the fact that we're moving Barky as well. Close to
Mm-hmm.
1,000 subs as well, so I'm excited for that as well. And seeing both our channels
Show
progress
some
from
love
there.
and support, guys. Don't forget to subscribe to both our channels. KP is on the road to that big goal of 1,000. So hit that
And
like button for
I
KP
just
and
want to say
help
as well,
KP
Steph.
get there, man.
Obviously, this was like my first full season covering Arsenal from like
Yep.
start to finish. It. I
Me
don't know if it
too.
was
Me
yours as
too.
well. So um, it was nice to kind of like have like the season and cover it and the ups and downs. Obviously, it was a bit of a frustrating season, but just to make content and continuously make content, I just want to pick us up. Do you know what I'm saying?
Nah, big us up because I mean it wasn't one of the easiest seasons to go through, especially for a content creator. So just to be here, thank you guys for all your love and support. Thank you, KP, for your support as well, helping me make this content, and you know how we go. Without further ado, we're gonna start with our first player, David Raya. Um, for me, I started the season saying that was gonna be our unsung hero of the season. Save catalog, he has two saves in the Premier League save of the season contest. But I think overall, as a player, he's grown into his own and really taken on that spot as being Arsenal's starting goalkeeper. KP, what do you think?
Yeah, I think like obviously given the fact that last season wasn't easy for him, coming to replace Ramsdale, who was a fan favorite. Obviously, long term, that's shown to be you know the right move. Obviously, he won Golden Glove last year. He won it again. Obviously, albeit tired of sales this year, but he's pulled off some outstanding saves, point
Standing
saving, match winning. If you want to like saves during the season, I can remember, just to speak off the back of Villa away at the beginning of the season. There's double saves from the Ollie Watkins close game, the Man United
Yep.
away game. He was
United
excellent
game.
in
If
that
you look at the
game.
Newcastle game,
Newcastle, I
the
remember.
Champions League games. Yep.
Yeah, even PSV. I remember even that Atalanta game with Junior Noe, he saved the penalty. Just in general, he's had some superb performances this season, and yeah, he was your unsung hero. I don't think I rated him or put him in any of my like predictions, but he definitely has to be a candidate for player of the season this year for us.
So we're putting him up in the player of the season category. I wanted to reserve player of the season for like the top three players that really have a shout for player of the season. Is David Ray a top three player of the season for you?
Yeah, I think it's my player of the season. I have five players. If I have to narrow it down to three, then I think about it. But like he's up there, man. He's been a consistent performer. Obviously, Yobi, yeah, he plays in a position that um there's not real much competition, and we'll get onto that. But he's stood up his ground. He's been consistent. Like he's part of the reason why we've had still had the best defensive record in the Premier League for
Mm-hmm.
back years. And I feel like this year he's been obviously, albeit I'll criticize him one towards the end of the season. His distribution started to get a bit
Yeah.
sloppy, like and just weird. But let's just say maybe that's his concentration. I think he's been good, but maybe you're right. I'll put him in good for now. Maybe we'll assess it at the end.
Yeah, we'll assess it later. That's the beauty about the tier list, people. If you never watched the tier list video, we can always go back, change our assessments of certain players based on how we rank them. But for now, we're gonna go straight through, find out where these guys rank off the top of our head. For me, Neto is next. I think we could just play him straight here. One game, and I thought he was shocking in that game, and didn't
We'll
really
try to
take the spot from Raya. Didn't really
we'll
do
try to
anything
save the
to
ball outside
really,
the box.
bro. He's crazy, bro. So didn't really do anything for me in his Arsenal tenure. I mean, was a good body just to have there, just in case anything happened to Raya. But good thing anything didn't. But for me, a bad season for Neto. Didn't really do
Yeah,
anything.
like that was, and obviously seeing the news now that obviously John Garcia is probably close enough to agree and move to Barcelona, and
Yeah.
we apparently had that deal all but sorted out, and Eddie's gone and pulled, getting this guy just because he's maybe fearful that there might be some tension between Garcia getting minutes. It just shows the poetry of that last summer's window. So Neto, one game and a game to be forgotten from him still. Like
Can't be
just a
forgotten.
waste. Just a waste.
Moving on next, we have William Saliba, and this is a player that we can put in either these two categories. We can put him in either the player of the season or good category. For me, I would have put him in good, and I'll say this as to why. I didn't think his season this season was as good as the 23-24 season. I thought in some crucial games he was making errors on the ball, but either way, played almost the whole season, up until the back end of the season, and he was crucial for the best defense in the league again in the Premier League. So we hold him to this high standard of being the best young center back or one of the best center backs in the world. I hold him to that standard. I think he is one of the best. I don't think it was his best season, but I do think he was absolutely brilliant this season as well. Let's not take that away from him.
Yeah. I
What
think
do you think, KP?
yeah, it was definitely was his best season. But then obviously when the standard that you set, being one of the best players in your position, is so high, obviously anything that's not that level, it's very noticeable. Especially like when they're making errors, like seeing them being human. Let's just say, for example, we saw a lot of human sides to Saliba's game this season, but that also will come with age. He's only 23. He's still a young player. He's playing at the highest level where all the eyes are on him, the expectations on him, and given Arsenal's reputation in our defensive side, and him being a big contributor to that, as well as Gabriel. Like it's obviously it's not been his best season, but I still think he's had a very good season, and I think he could argue that he can be in the player of the season because he's been our one. Him and Raya, obviously, I have to say, have been our one constants in our defense throughout the whole season, bar that last game of the season, obviously, and in general, like as you're saying, like because of his mistakes, it kind of masks over the quality piece of defending that he's had throughout the whole season, like and just I think the evolution of his game as well. We start to see Saliba start to drive into the midfield a bit more, take some more responsibility in terms of building up, and I'm pretty sure that that will continue throughout the season. But I do agree with you. For now, I'll put him in good, but I could argue, I have an argument maybe a bit later, depending on who's the player of the season. If I might shift him up there. I can't hear you. You can hear me? Right.
And for me, this guy has a shout to be player of the season. I don't know what you think. I'm gonna let you go first on this, but for me, absolutely outstanding this season. Been brilliant across the whole season when he was fit up until his injury. But KP, give me your thoughts on Gabriel Magalhaes' season.
Yeah, I think Defo for me, I put him in the player of the season tier. I think with I think the evolution of Gabriel through his time, like just I remember like I used to say he used to have the Bozo gene, great defender, aggressive defender, great
Mm-hmm.
aerial player, underrated ball player, but then just always has a prone to a mistake here and there or a bit of a rashness that can be costly. But I think he's definitely ironed that out, and I think this season he's definitely shown his level and his importance and his stake at being world class. I remember I made a video earlier in the season about him being world class, and I think he is. And I think him up there with Saliba are like two of the best centre backs in the whole world. I think people will know that now. His devastating threat from set pieces and corners. It's been there for all this time. It's not like it's new. It's been there through his whole tenure at Arsenal. But I think given the fact that we've improved so much in set pieces, the deliveries of Saka and Rice, you've seen how dangerous his movement, his athleticism in the both boxes as well is good. And then obviously not notably his leadership. Like we could see that we were missing his leadership, his morale boosting, his the confidence that I guess he gives and the surety that he gives when he got injured. And obviously, I think up until that point, he definitely was one of our best players, if not our best player, like in terms of how effective he was for our team. So yeah, how about you? What do you
Yeah,
think?
I agree with everything you said. 5 goals, 3 assists this season for a defender. Scored in the FA Cup against United in a game that we struggled. Scored a goal against City, a brilliant header. Won man of the match twice against Tottenham. I think Gabriel has proven this season, like you said, he stepped into that role of really breaking out of that quote quote bozo gene he had in terms of people saying he's liable to make mistakes. And I think this season really cemented him officially as being literally one of the best centre backs in world football. Even missing a few games at the back end of the season, I still have him in my team of the season. Overall in the Premier League, I think he was that good this year when he did play. And for me, he's undoubtedly one of Arsenal's player of the season, one of our best defenders that we have in the squad. Moving on to someone that came in for Gabriel during the back half of the season, and that's Jakob Kivior. Jakob Kivior, for me, when he first came in, I remember when Gabriel went down, Kivior stepped up massively for us, man. And I just want to give him credit before I even put him in the ranking, man. I just want to say he came in where we needed him to perform. We needed him in big Champions League games to go to the Bernabeu and perform, go up against Madrid and perform, go up against PSG and perform, against Liverpool perform, scored goals, scored a goal at the back end of the season. I think it was against Palace, that brilliant header. So Kivior has came in and he's really looked. I mean, even next to Saliba, he's stood out as one of the best defenders in that back line. So I give Jakob Kivior a lot of credit. His passing has come to the forefront. We've really seen him really develop that side of his game as well, even though he was already good at it. But physically, it was a really understand the game. Jakob Kivior for me has a really good season for the standard he set. To be honest, and coming, it's not easy sitting down behind William Saliba and Gabriel. So to be able to step in and play like that when called upon, I have to give Jakob Kivior all praise, all praise.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. Just the way he's played this season, just the way he's been like throughout the whole season. Like I just think it's been a credit to his professionalism. Obviously, he's still young as well. He's the same,
Yeah,
same age as Saliba and Gabriel. He has shown a level of like a surety in his ball playing and defending that I guess we didn't know and we didn't have the confidence in. I remember when we were having conversations about obviously bringing maybe a half fit, or clearly wasn't fit, Ben White into
Ben
the
White.
fold
Yeah,
for those important games against Madrid, PSG, and Kivior stood up, played, and earned his he earned his respect in an Arsenal shirt. Like he's been in and around the squad for a couple of years now. He's played. He was prominent last season when he played at left back as well. When we didn't have a left back, he was prominent the season before. When
yep.
Saliba went out eventually. But I think now he's kind of shown his own, and I think he's been good. Like obviously he hasn't played as much games as Saliba and Gabriel, and sorry, Saliba and David Raya. And but I think when he's been called upon, as you said, he's been quality, and I just want to give him a big shout out because I think as well he's been able to show his ability on the ball a lot and his surety on the
Yeah.
ball, and also show how good of a defender he is as well, which is has been good. So yeah, shout out to Kivio, man.
Shout out to Kivior. This is a really interesting one. Let me. I want you to go first on this one. This is one is interesting to me. Calafiori. Had a lot of ups and downs, injuries, but also had great moments in this season. I want to start off with you. What do you think about Ricardo Calafiori's 24-25?
I think it's been difficult for him because obviously he's been injured multiple times, obviously throughout the season.
Yeah.
And I think the last injury kept him up for a little while. Obviously, he's been unlucky because a lot of these injuries have happened, like not playing for Arsenal. So it's been unlucky for us. I think when he has played, he has been quality. I can like talk about like some of the surprising nature of the game, his ability to attack and dribble and carry the ball, his ball striking, his passing, his intelligence on the ball. He has been a bit edgy, defending in the wide areas. I can tell he's a bit more of a centre back than a full back. Obviously, when he's playing these kind of tricky wingers, he's found it a bit tough. Um, when he played centre back towards the end of the season, you could see that he's more comfortable. He sees the surety, his quality in the air, his strength, and what he can bring, which is something totally different and refreshing. Displacing shapes and centre back carrying the ball into midfield.
Yep.
His goal against Man City, his goal against Wolves, his goal against PSV, like because he's had a lot of quality performances. Even his cameo against PSG in the second leg when he came on,
Yep.
like he's a quality player. I think I would put him in. I put him in average.
Yeah, me too. I
I
was
think
thinking that too.
he's been good, but he hasn't played enough, and I can't blame him for that. I got to hope that next season, that as you say, like he doesn't have the injury problems he's had this year, and we can really see him because I think it's been difficult for us because of the injuries and everything that's happened. I feel like it's been kind of difficult to see what maybe Mikel and the iterations he might have planned for the season, maybe with the signings that he did want and the players that he had, because obviously he had all the injuries and all the inconsistencies. So I'm just hoping that a lot of these players and the players we signed stay fit, so we can kind of see the team evolve and maybe the way we might want to with the players that we have. But yeah, Calafiori, big shout out to him.
Nah, yeah, I agree with everything you said about Calafiori in terms of his game and his assurities when he is playing center back compared to left back against those tricky wingers. And I do have to say he hasn't played enough games for me to say he's had a good season, but I wouldn't say he's been below average or bad anyway. Like I think when he's played, he's been good. He's been solid. So I put him at the average, pretty okay season. And that goes on to Kieran Tierney, another player in a similar situation. I think of Ricardo Calafiori. When he did come in, he didn't really put a foot wrong, but also didn't play enough games for him to really get in those top two categories. Someone could make the argument for his standard. Maybe we can make a shout for him stepping up into the good category, similar to what we did with Jakob Kivior. But for me, it has to be about average, put him in the average category. It wasn't a bad season, scored a goal on his final level Arsenal appearance, put in some good crosses when he came in and gave us a different dimension on the left. But for me, around about an average season for KT coming back from injury.
Yeah, for I'd say he obviously he wasn't used. He was used sparingly, so obviously that doesn't add to that or help. Obviously,
Yeah.
he was injured from the summer, so coming into the team where there's so many left backs and so many different type of players in our team that play in that same position, it was difficult for him. But I think when he was used, he was good and he was dependable, I should say, and he was used a bit more. We saw a lot of left wing Kieran Tierney performances this year as well,
Yeah.
um, like which was interesting to see. But obviously his contract is gone now. I can put him below average, but definitely a quality
Did you
serve
say
that
below
they've
average?
got. Sorry, below average, average. Sorry, my bad.
Average.
And just give him a shout out for just that last goal and just seeing what it means to him to play for a club like still it's this is immense. Yeah,
The next player is Alexander Zinchenko. For me, KPI, I don't know what you think, but I'd say below average. And that's just because, okay, I hold him to this standard. 22-23, he came in and he was the guy to take us to a next level. And there's no fault on him that the squad has
yeah,
progressed past his defensive in stuff that he's not able to do defensively. We have
yeah,
another player I'm going to talk about soon, Lewis Skelly. We have Calafiori also here, Tierney, who also here have kind of moved past him in the pecking order. And even Joe moments he's gotten chances to play in midfield. I think for someone who's been fit all season, not ready to get them on a game time, it has to be a below average season because there's not really much excuse we can make for Zinchenko getting any higher than maybe average, but I'm leaning below average. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm the same, man. I think Zinchenko this season, just I think because he hasn't really been injured as well, so you can't even really say that. Like obviously, the previous seasons there's been the thing where he's been injured and in and out of the team, so he's not been dependable, as well as obviously the problems that he has. But I think just yeah, like given the fact there's been so many injuries and he still hasn't been used so much in a way that like you would hope that he can be, like it's it's disappointing in my opinion. So yeah, below average, I can agree with that.
Yep. Moving on to be honest, someone that has emerged in this squad as one of the best players, best young players in the world, honestly, is Muzz Skelly, a player that KP you know a lot about. So I'll let you take over on this section and let you wax lyrical about the young talent. Let me know what you think of Muzz Skelly's 2024-2025 breakout season for Arsenal.
no, Lewis Skelly's been quality this year, man. I think um
I'm pretty sure he probably didn't expect to have the season that he's had. Maybe he expected to break through, given the fact that he hasn't played any first team football before this season. You wouldn't know that from how he's
Mhm.
played, but he's been he's been superb, man. I think playing out of position, playing in a pressure moment where Arsenal have had a lot of injuries in that position. Arsenal have a lot of injuries in midfield. He offers things that we don't have in the team that he's shown to be so needed and dependable in making his England debut, play like starting the last like what 15, 16, 17 games, or 17 out of 18 games in the last like 20 games, and just making himself one of the main parts of our team. Like I don't see how we start next season. I don't see how we play moving forward without him starting or being in the team, because what he brings and knowing that this is just the beginning is immense. Like I knew he had it in him, but I didn't expect him to do it this season. I won't come and say I expected him to play however many games he's played and played the minutes, play in the stadiums and in the matches that he's played, and show the level of calmness, assurity. He's a joy to watch, and it's just crazy. Like when you watch him, it's like he makes you happy because it's the maturity and the intelligence, the use of his body, everything that he does. Yeah, man. Like, oh, Lewis Skelly. What about you?
And I agree with you, KP. Before we even move on from Lewis Kelly, I just want to talk about something you touched on slightly, his character. And he's shown a lot of character. I remember that his first game, he came in, I think it was a City game, the first one. Lewis and Haaland went in on him, said what he said about him, like, who that for you, started talking down on him. And to get that goal back at the Emirates and show that and host Haaland and show that character and really have the whole footballing of Arsenal's footballing community behind him worldwide, it really shown that when you see those videos of him in the Bernabeu just laughing, smiling on before a big game, before one of Arsenal's biggest games of the season, you're looking at a player that 18, 19 years old has the maturity and the quality, like you mentioned, of a full senior pro. And for him to step into this team, like you said, I can't see the future without him somewhere in this squad, whether that is at left back or whether that is moving into a midfield position, which I think he will benefit from beautifully with a lot of the attributes you mentioned before. So for me, Miles Lewis-Skelly, for his age, for expectation, for where he was this season, we can also do this in the tier ranking. I say I put him above Kivior in all. He's in the good ranking, but he's also above Kivior in the good ranking, if that makes sense. Going on next,
No.
another player.
No, I agree with
So what
you.
you're
That's
saying?
what you're saying. Like, yeah, he's in a good rank. He's in the good ranking, but he's above him. Yeah, I do agree.
Yeah. Moving on next, we have, to be honest, a very tough debate between these next two players in Ben White and Urian Timber. For me, Ben White has not played a lot of football this season. If we're talking about this season specifically, he's not really played that much football. Deal with that knee injury that did some surgery that he needed, that he's been playing, that injury he's been playing with for months upon months. When he's came in, especially at the back of this half of the season, we could tell he's not really fit. But it's certain glimmers and like the last game of the season against Southampton, he looked pretty bright. And it's led me to ask a lot of conversations about who we have as our right back moving forward. But overall for this season, I have to put him in the average category. I didn't think he played enough football to really be over the likes of maybe a Kieran Tierney or Calafiori for the same reasons about injuries. But yeah, what are your thoughts about Ben White's 24-25 season?
Below average. The reason why I put him in the below average category is because
So below average.
Yeah, below average. Because just
Fair.
looking at the tiers, I'm thinking about who's going to be in average. I'm trying. Obviously, I know it's not just like the same amount, like type of rating, but like obviously, yeah, he had a great last game, and I think he reminded us of what we're missing and what he brings and what he can bring in that position as well, and how that like helps, the right winger and just in general the whole triplet on that side. I just think that in prior games that he has played, he hasn't been of that level. There's been obviously, albeit he's coming back from fitness as well, so I can't be so harsh on him. But if I'm just rating him alongside how I rate all other players, I think it's
That's fair. That's fair when you put it into context like that. I'd have to agree with you ultimately when you make that point. But would you argue that maybe like he could have been hampered by some of those? I mean, you already mentioned it, so
no, yeah. But then obviously that can be a contributing factor to a lot of these players, obviously, in our team, because obviously bar like one or two, most of them have been injured like at some point in time, and like you'll see when I get obviously at the end I might change my like the tune depending on where I am.
No. This is fair. It's fair. I'm open to all these. I'm not too taken back by the team.
Because even really like Kieran Tierney, if I'm ranking him, it's not like he's done anything special really throughout the season, or he's not like he's had a period in the team where he's been like starting or playing a lot of minutes. So like I could put him below. I should put him below average.
Before,
I should put Tierney below average as well. Not because I'm saying he's bad or anything, just because he's not necessarily done anything wrong. But I'm just giving him the sentimental value of a player that's leaving, been a good servant. So I'll give him like respect because when he's come in, he's played. But that's why.
And when you made the argument for Ben White, you could look at his past and say, okay, he was one of our best players. Who 23-24 season, you could put him in the good to almost breaking in, depending on who you are, into player of the season category in terms of playing all those games on an injured knee and still scoring and getting assists and being one of our best attackers, helping us attack on that right hand side. But this season, due to injuries and due to lack of performance and coming back from those injuries, I have to agree it's somewhere between one of these two categories. I say either between average or below average. For no, we could if we're talking about just ranking him based on how we view him as a player and the season he's had. I'd say it has been below his average. So I'd agree with that. Urian Timberno is a player for me that I think has came in off the back of an ACL injury, and there was a point in this season where if Urian Timber got injured, we had no right backs in the squad. Tomiyasu hasn't played minutes at all this season. Ben White, like we just talked about, has had a very difficult season battling injuries after surgery. And Urian Timber has really stepped up as someone that we can rely on, turned into one of the best one-on-one defenders, one-on-one fullbacks in the world. Had immense performances up and down this season for us, and he's a big contributor for me as to why we the best defense in the Premier League. KP, a lot of people have to make an argument about player of the season category for Urian Timber. Is he up there for you, or is he just slightly below that tier?
He's one of the players that I put in my player of the season category for the season. He was my unsung hero at the beginning of the season. I remember that. So I voted. Obviously, he's overshadowed that. And similar to Ben White last season, which is why I feel a bit harsh putting Ben White in that category, given the fact that obviously, he has had surgery, he has been injured. He was playing through injury last season, but obviously similar to Ben White last season, where he was playing through injury. Now that we've come to the knowledge of Timber playing through injury for a little while, because obviously we haven't had any other right backs to cover him, and him sacrificing himself obviously for the sake of the team, and him having that surgery at the end. Knowing that and knowing some of the performances he has pulled out, both on the ball and defensively, the fact that like barely any wingers in Europe in the league have been able to get their best over Timber, like 1v1s, the defending he's shown, the quality on the ball for him to pick it up and drive. He's a different kind of defender to Ben White, but I think given the fact that he had a full ACL injury last season in his debut season, you have to remember he's still young as well. He's only 22. He's not like this guy's he has the maturity and the aura of an older guy, but he is still very young. Do you know what I mean? When you think about how he's played this season, he's been one of our most consistent players performance-wise, and the fact that given the fact that he's played a lot of games, he's barely missed any games really. I think he had a little period early in the season where he missed a couple of games, and he had to come in right back. But apart from that, I put Timber up there to play this season, one of the candidates.
Well, I could tell, I could already see now from the list of players we have at the bottom now to put in, and who we already have in the already have on the tier list. There's definitely going to be some rearranging from my end, but I definitely think Urian Timber definitely is up there for player of the season show. I mean, don't thinking back about it, what you said at the beginning. How can we only have 3 in the player of the season category, man? How could we only have 3? But moving on to next, another player of why I said this, who's arguably up there for player of the season, Thomas Partey. Where does Partey fall for you? Because I thought at his best during the season, he has been one of the best midfielders in the Prem again. Definitely one of our best midfielders for us personally. And I also would say this, with Zubamendi coming in, I think it would have been a big loss to lose a player like Partey and also lose Jorginho in one window. So I'm glad that we still have Partey, who could, even if something happens to Zubamendi, God forbid an injury or God forbid that form prevents, but we need to have someone in there playing probably one of the most important positions in Mikel Arteta's system, and that's that deep lying six. What was your thoughts about Thomas Partey's seasons this year, KP?
I think he's been good. I don't know about him in that player of the season category. There's only probably like 2 main reasons I'll say, but I think he's been consistent given the fact that he didn't really play last season until towards the end of the run-in, and given the fact that he's played, I don't think he's been injured all season. I can't remember him being injured. I remember him only missing the game
due to suspension.
Yeah,
I only had the suspension game against PSG.
I don't really remember him missing too many games this season, which is good, and obviously good for his reliability. And I think on the ball, he's been one of the best players again in the league and in the Sixers. But I just think my criticism of him, or where I won't put him in player of the season, I just haven't seen 90-minute performances from him where throughout the whole game.
That would be, and I was gonna get to that. Yep, I agree with that.
And I think also seeing the level Partey has reached in previous seasons, comparing him to some other Sixers just through history, I think I've seen I haven't seen when Arsenal was struggling to have an imprint in midfield, for example when Odegaard was out, when Rice has been in and out. And when Rice early season wasn't playing up to the way he was playing towards the end of the season, I don't think Partey took his imprint on the game and made it his game the way I know he can, which for his level of talent, even though he's been consistent and been good, I think I wanted to see more of. I like where this was Partey's game. He bossed it. Do you know what I mean? He was the man
Yeah.
of the match type, like level that we've seen even in Jorginho's older age, where there's some games he's come in and he's been like man of the match level because he's just kind of conducted and controlled everything that we've done. I think in times where that has happened. So that's just where I put him. But I think he's been quality and we need to keep him. Even though Zubimendi is coming in, we need to keep him and we need to have him there. And I'm happy that we're probably getting close to that.
I can agree with that. That was going to be my only criticism to a player like Partey. I've seen sometimes in the first half he'd be bossing the game, and then all of a sudden, I mean, sometimes to his own detriment in terms of his fitness and tracking around the pitch or the game. Maybe in game state, there was been a lot of games this season where we've had red cards, and that changed how we have to approach the football match. There have been times where he's asked to play right back, in certain situations, and that's for me is a position I don't really like to see him play, even though I know he can play it. He's played it for Atletico Madrid before, but in terms of when you have the players like Yuri and Timber and Ben White when he's fit to play that position, or even Tommy Yasu when he's also fit to play that position, I just don't like seeing Partey at right back, which is why I give him a lot of credit for even stepping out and playing that position when asked upon and still doing a solid enough job. But for me, yeah, I'd have to agree when you talk about player of the season, even though you made that argument, couldn't people could also make the argument Urian Timber hasn't really had a man of the match type game. I don't know if you disagree with that, but is there what would somebody say to that argument?
I could understand that. I would say one of Timber's best performances was that Leicester game at home
Yeah,
when
I remember.
when we won 4-2 where he created a
Mhm.
lot of chances. I won't say he was man of the match in that because I think Saka was probably man of the match in that game. But based on that argument, yeah, I can understand that. I do agree.
I mean, you don't have to
Yeah,
change your opinion, but don't have to change. But that's just something the devil's advocate would say.
yeah. It's fair enough, innit? Like I can't
Yeah,
fault him to that. I just think Timber in his position there's been not that many faults I can fault him with in his game. That
yeah,
maybe he's a different player in terms of how he overlaps and attacks. Maybe he doesn't have the same level of chemistry that Man White has had with Saka playing with him for so many years. But I think he's been one of our best performers this season. But it's the same thing as Partey, so yeah, maybe we revisit at the end. But yeah,
well, KP, this is another. I'm gonna keep go back to you here. This is one of your favorite players. This is Jorginho leaving the club. Um, he's been a great servant for us. I thought when we've been using him over the last couple of seasons, he's been quality. He's stepped up and showed his ability for us. Never really put a foot wrong, and is someone you need to have in a squad like this. What are your thoughts about Jorginho, and where would you rank his 24-25 season?
I think he's been average, but I'll probably rank him below average because I think he hasn't really played that many
Played enough
games. But when
games.
when, when he has played this season, he has been quality.
Yeah,
Most notably, I can remember West Ham at home.
yeah.
I'm sorry,
Oh yeah,
West Ham away.
away. West Ham
Sorry,
away to 5-1. Yeah,
that 5-2, 5-1
5 2,
performance.
5 2, 5 2.
A couple other performances this season when he's come in. I remember that was it Tottenham away, Spurs away. Did Jorginho play
Mm-hmm.
Partey when Rice was out? Like I can remember a couple of performances where he's been there and he's played a bit more. Obviously, I know when he got that injury towards the end of the season where he was kind of out for a minute. Obviously, we kind of didn't really get to see him. Um, but I think I would say below average because of what he had last season, the effect he had last season when he played so much. But I think it is being a bit harsh, I would say. But I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I mean, below average sounds harsh, but if we're using the same metric that we use against Ben White in terms of let's keeping it consistent in terms of Ben White,
Yeah,
we know in the levels he could reach, we know the level Jorginho could reach, and it's not saying Jorginho had a bad season, but it's just genuinely that he didn't do anything to really stand out or what have that much wow factor. But I do agree when Jorginho came in, I thought he was absolutely brilliant. He stood up. He was when he counted upon. I remember last season, 23-24, more so than anything. That back half of the season when we didn't have Partey, I mean, how how could you not praise his performances? European performances, he was stepping up for us, stepping in that midfield, really solidifying. And that's why I say that position for Mikel Arteta is so crucial, which is why we can't lose a player like Thomas Partey in the same window we're losing to Jorginho. It literally we literally have to keep one of them. So hopefully that
which is
Partey deal gets
which is
done.
why
And thank you to
which is why
Jorginho.
it's signing like which is why like yeah, thank you to Jorginho first and foremost. I wish, as I always say, he's one of my favorite players,
Yeah,
favorite sixes. Like I wish we got him a couple of years ago when he was a bit
earlier.
younger and
Yeah.
we can get a bit more of the legs in him and it's an effective player. But I think getting a player like Zubimendi, who I've called maybe Jorginho, who probably may end up being a better player than Jorginho just because of his ability to do a lot of things on the pitch. So I think that effect will kind of come in, and we won't feel the loss of Jorginho as much when he comes
Hmm.
in. Shout out to him.
Moving on next, for me, my player of the season, and that's Declan Rice. Another season where the 100 million price tag has not really been mentioned about him. 9 goals, 10 assists, scored crucial goals for us in the Real Madrid game. But even outside of that, goals and assists at the back end of the season, he has stepped up as, for me, our best midfielder this season. When Odegaard has been below average, well, that's preempting what I'm going to say next. And Partey has had like a decent season, but like you said, hasn't really taken the game by the scruff of the neck. I thought even in moments where we've lost games or drawn games, Declan Rice is the player that I could look at and say, that guy gave his 100% all. Like I know he left it all out there. He played well, and for me, he's my player of the season. What are your thoughts about Declan Rice this season, KP?
Um, yes, player of the season. I think when I think about everything in totality, I will put him up there as my player of the season as well. I think, yes, just obviously those free kicks just from Real Madrid, the second one as well, still something that I play in my mind to this day. But just overall, his performances, his leadership, his progression as a player, his deliveries from some set pieces have been are consistent. His goals, the goal against Man United, the goal against um was the last game of the season, second to last game of the season. That goal against Newcastle, sorry, quality finish like that. He's mastered that type of finish, and just overall his overall game, his defensive work has never been shone for. And yes, as you said, another year where I don't think we'll ever talk about his price tag because he's going to be at a
Yep,
level of consistency where we want, and he's one of the best midfielders, not just in the league in the world.
in the
Like
world. Yep.
I was talking about him being a six, but like I remember me and you've spoken many a time about him playing eight, how sometimes it stiffens us up, especially towards the beginning of the part of the season. But I think he's evolved into that position a lot and learned how to play the position in his own manner, not maybe in the way that
Mhm.
we kind of naturally want maybe a player to play there because he's not that type of player. And I think he's a leader, man. He's the captain without the armband for sure.
Yeah.
Or one of at least maybe alongside Gabriel. I'm not saying Odegaard isn't the captain, but he's definitely
Yeah.
there, and
I
he's
agree
definitely
with you.
he's
You
one
have
of
to
those
have those
players
characters.
that he's one of those players that he contributes to us winning. He's one of those
Hmm.
players that maintains a certain level, digs deep when we need to, and yeah, man, play of the season. Shout out to Declan Rice, man.
Shout out to Declan Rice.
Be like Declan
Um,
Rice.
moving on to our next player, who I'm looking at his stats now. I put up his stats: 6 goals and 12 assists in all competitions, 8 assists in the Premier League. That's only 2 behind Bukayo Saka. But we're looking at Martin Odegaard. From a stats perspective, a lot of people will throw stats and say 16, 18 goals and assists. Had an injury where he was out for 3 months. Probably hampered him towards the back end of the season. Give him grace. He had an average season. But for me, overall performances, there's been so much about Odegaard's game, and I'm probably one of the biggest Odegaard fans around. I love Odegaard. I think what he brings to this team, we need in terms of creativity. On his day, that link up with Saka, that is something we have special brewing down that right hand side, and I'd love to see it continue to grow. But the biggest criticism I have about Odegaard's game, and I spoke to you about this. I can't remember what game specifically. It kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but he kind of runs into a lot of people's spaces and it and crowds a lot of like, or for
I
example,
think
crowds
I
a lot
think
of
it was the
soccer spaces.
I think it was the Brentford game, the Brentford
Yeah,
home
it
game.
might have been that
It
game.
was that game.
Uh, But I just don't like the way that I see him drive the ball through midfield and run the ball straight onto Saka's foot to make a 2 yard pass. Again, another example where I seen him also do that, go against that this season is the last game of the season. Even though it was against Southampton, the result didn't really matter. He takes the ball from his own half, runs into the opposition's half, cuts inside. Could have easily played the ball out to Bukayo Saka on the right hand side for Saka to make a chance. Now decides, you know what, I'm going to take the game by the scruff of the neck, skips past a player, and fires a shot into the bottom corner. Something we have not seen him do well, not all season, but a lot of this season. take more shots because we know he has that left foot cannon on him. And for me, that's where I'm a bit disappointed in Odegaard's season. I think when you see 18 goals and assists and he missed 3 months, you're like, wow, this could have been a spectacular season if we got a little bit more out of you as our captain. I do think he's a player that is deserving to be in this team moving forward, unless anything changes. Thinking about Ethan Waneri and Max Doman potentially coming through if we send a 10, Ryan Shirky. But for me, Odegaard, below average season, but that's just holding him to the standard of when you put him into team of the seasons and being Arsenal's player of the season. To have a season where people are questioning the captaincy, or questioning his performances, questioning his ability to stay in this team long term, you have to put it down to definitely a below average season. What are your thoughts on Odegaard's 24-25 KP?
Yeah, I think you said everything quality about Odegaard in this point. I think it's good that you kind of mention his stats as well, just to kind of give perspective and not this be the total. But if you look at his stats and don't look at the player, he had an average season. I would say he's not a below average, but I think to his standard, if you minus the stats and you are like us who watch all the Arsenal games every minute of every game and watched Odegaard play, I will give context before I get into this. Obviously, I can't imagine, and I've been injured before. I've had multiple knee injuries in my life, so I can't say that certain injuries can affect you for longer. And even if you come back and you're fit, sometimes you're just not yourself. So I can admit that much. I'm not going to be disrespectful and inconsiderate towards that fact. And obviously, Odegaard's injury was bad, and he didn't have any surgery, unlike the other players. Maybe didn't require it, but who knows if he's still feeling the effects, or only kind of getting to his own towards the end of the season, where we start to see him kind of pick up performances. But with all that being said, there's been some games where he's just been non-existent, like below non-existent, like not good. Sometimes he's losing the ball, like turning into guys, passing into guys, like forcing those back post crosses without any real whip or any direction when picking anyone out. I should say, being in shooting positions or areas where he's either just not shooting or the shot is just timid. And yeah, like obviously, as I said, I gave the context before to kind of maybe who knows if it's because of the injuries, because last season, probably more the season before last season, he was quality. I didn't think he deserved the player of the season last season. Not saying that he didn't have a good season, and he probably if we had done this last year, he would have probably been in my player of the season categories for last season. But I don't think he would have won it. But yeah, coming from that level and what he did win it, and seeing what he performed this season, is definitely below average. So I don't disagree about moving him into tiers, but it's just disappointing because he's our captain. He is a player that has immense quality, and that thing that he talked about, him running into Saka's space a lot before he then eventually releases him the ball, him not taking the onus on himself to kind of beat a man or two and take a shot, or play an incisive pass that we know he can do. And I think to add on to the point, just a lot of, like, given the fact that Arsenal have been a bit stale and a bit stagnant, there's a lot of times, yes, okay, Arsenal don't have, and we suffered a lot of injuries in attacking situations, so we don't have a lot of movement. But when there are opportunities to pass the ball in behind or pass the ball, sometimes he takes the choice not to, rather than doing it. Obviously, yeah, when we've seen him doing it, like in the second half against Liverpool, where he was finding Martinelli constantly, and obviously you can kind of say that obviously a player like Martinelli does running behind a lot. So maybe if Odegaard has that option constantly, then he may choose that option. But there's been times where you can see a blatant pass and he would choose to kind of turn back with a transition, and he has the ball and he would choose to slow it down. And those things are frustrating, where you want, again, similar to where I talked about with Partey, why I didn't rate him one higher, is where you want those players that have that quality to take the game by the scruff of the neck, to own the game, to give me man of the match performances, to give me moments where if we lost, it's not because of you. Do you know what I mean? Like, we've seen players like Saka, we've even seen Waneri to an extent in certain games where they've taken that game to Declan Rice, Lewis Skelly, just to name a few, like just where they've taken those games themselves and said, I'm gonna make up every time I get a ball. I'm saying Odegaard hasn't done that, and to his quality, he's not being, to his standard, he's been below average. I hope it's just been one of those ones where he gets a good summer. Obviously, he wasn't even in the Euros last summer. Yeah, it wasn't. So obviously the injury.
I hope he rests up, man.
He rests up, and hopefully, as you're saying, maybe we either, whether that's a signing in a number 10 position, whether that's Waneri getting promoted, or Vieira coming back, or as we all know, Max Downham being involved there, and the threat of your position, in the sense of just your position, not your captaincy, anything, being threatened with other players that can offer more. Maybe that allows him to have a bounce back season. I'm hoping and praying because it will only benefit us, and it will. I love, as I said, I love Odegaard as well. He's one of my favorite players from young, and when he's got signed at Arsenal, I remember a lot of people
Yeah.
were kind of saying, "Oh, Buendia, Madison." I was backing Odegaard because I know his quality, but I think now that he's at that age where you want him to start to kind of be one of the best players both in our team and the world, he needs to start acting like it. So below average for him,
Yep.
for me.
I have to agree with that, unfortunately. But moving on to a player that has shifted the needle for a lot of Arsenal fans. Not really for me, because I didn't really see any faults in his performances until the back end of the season. And that's Mikel Moreno. No, I'll say this about Moreno. When he first came in, dealt with injuries straight off the bat, had a shoulder injury before he could even start with the Arsenal. Bounced back from that injury, scored against Liverpool from a header, played in midfield a few games. Some people would say he didn't stand out. I would say he didn't put a foot wrong, more so than anything. He was a real industrial midfield worker in there. One back the ball was really tidy. And then he moved into that position of being a number 9. And I think that's where he really grew into his aura for this Arsenal squad this season. Scoring goals when we needed to him too. Scored against PSV, scored against Real Madrid, scored and assisted against Real Madrid, as I say. Scored against Chelsea, scored big goals against Leicester, scored a lot of goals at the back end of the season. Scored against Liverpool to tie the game for us, and we were down 2-0. So, listen, man, Mikel Moreno has really came into his own. 9 goals and 5 assists in this season. He showed his quality for someone that's supposed to be a central midfielder, a central defensive midfielder. Sometimes he's really stepped into his own, man. And I have to say he's had a really good season. I wouldn't put him in player of the season, definitely not. But I think he's played above average, and I think he's had a good season.
Yeah, I agree. He's had a good season. I'll put him in a good category as well. I think. Yeah, like I'm pretty sure he would have expected himself to play play strike. And at the beginning part of the season before he was out of the team for a little bit, I think because of injury, I think he was, as you said, it was okay. He was okay. He was decent. I think what I didn't expect Marino to come in and be the player that's changing the dial for us. I think he's kind of just a player that I would expect him to just come in and put not a foot wrong, add some leadership, add some physical qualities, and I knew about his aerial threat, which he has shown. So, with a couple of headers that he scored this season as well, and just even the misses as well. So I'm happy with that. But I think with him, he's a tidy player. He keeps his ball attention is good. He keeps it ticking. You can tell he probably will show a bit more of quality and comfortability playing next season. Probably returning back to the midfield, competing with Rice in that number 8 position to bring in similar type of things, and maybe allowing us to rest Rice a bit more towards the front end of the season and keeping it fresh. I think him playing strike has been a revelation. Not saying he's come in and been like some superb 90 minutes, but he scored goals, timely goals, some quality finishes as well, some good hold up play and overall striking play back to goal as well. And I think he's finally settled into the Arsenal team and to the Arsenal. I'm pretty sure, a player that's never played in a position before and demanding as it is, given the fact that we had no other players in that position, like Martinelli, Trossard, but you know what I mean. And him having the record that he had and him having the consistency he had, I think you got to put him up there. Yeah, it wasn't player of the season level, but I think it was very good. And I hope next season this kind of relaxes him because there will be a lot of competition in that midfield. But I hope whenever he does play, this allows him to kind of show his ability and his quality, both with the goals and just overall to develop more on the ball as well. So yeah, good season for Marino.
Mhm.
And a
I have
big
to
shout
agree
out
with
for him
that.
for holding down that nine shirt when he was.
Oh yeah,
however
massive
he
shout
was.
out.
Big
Now
shout out.
the next person I want to get into, KP, I'll let you start off because listen, when the season started, we all talked about what this guy, man. All Arsenal fans know about this guy. We all love this guy. And I think before his injury, he was on pace to have another one of his all-time seasons. If we're looking at his stats right now, Bukayo Saka, 12 goals and 14 assists in 37 games. That's 26 goal contributions in 37 matches while missing, 4 months of the season? Coming back in, and even then, at the back end of the season, he didn't really look his fittest, but still scored goals, scored against PSG, scored against Real Madrid. Could have scored 2 against Real Madrid. Could also score 2 against PSG as well. But you're also looking at a player and you're asking a lot of a player to come back in to be the man of this squad to lead after one, we didn't do enough in the transfer window in attacking aspect. And also two, we didn't really we just rushed him back, but he came back and you could tell there was sometimes he was just a little bit, you know what I mean, not really fully fit. Bukayo Saka, KP, where do you rank Bukayo Saka 24-25 season?
I just said, yeah, I think if he had not got injured, I think he would have definitely kept us in a title race longer
Yes.
than it was. Would have kept us closer to Liverpool. He would have definitely been on track to surpass his GA for a season. I think he was quite not quite. It was quite close to his. Not even for the amount of games he missed. He was quite close to his numbers last year. Getting double-digit goals and assists again is quality for a
Yeah.
player that. Yeah, towards the back end, you could tell he wasn't fully fit. You could tell he done all he can to get himself back, but he was doing all he can to also make sure he wasn't getting injured again. So hopefully, yeah, him deserving a good summer, coming back, raring to go, knowing him.
There was also moments and times this season where we thought he could break the Premier League assist record. Like he had
Yeah,
like 10 assists in
yeah,
the
this
first
is
half of
early.
the
Yeah,
season.
early still. And obviously, he got
It
injured.
was a mad.
Those corners that he was putting in, the quality. And it's funny enough that you could tell that he wasn't as sharp as he saw those misses against Ipswich, where he could have had a
Ipswich,
hat
yeah.
trick. You know, the miss against PSG and a couple other games where you can tell that he wasn't best, and he still was of a quality. So I think I'll put him in a good category. I wish I could put him in the player of the season
I
because
wish I could put.
I'm pretty
I
sure
was gonna say that.
he
Yeah.
was our prediction for player of the season at the beginning of the season. I'm pretty sure we both predicted Saka to win the player of the season.
And I
And
think without injury, he'd be undoubtedly right around here.
I think he would have been our player of the season. Even though Rice would have still had the moment, I think Saka would have had the moments. And
Yeah, I think
funny
Saka would
enough,
have had it. Yeah.
Rice's 2 moments with Real Madrid come from Saka. You know, winning both of those free kicks from just
Mm-hmm.
carrying that aura and that threat.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like he will still be my guy that I back to win player of the season again. Maybe even Barclays Premier League player of the season next year, because if I hope he stays fit, I think he'll be up there. So yeah, that's my rate for Saka.
Man, you mentioned Barclays player of the season, KP. I can't wait to see the day where he's lifting up a Premier League title alongside that trophy, man, because he deserves it. The development we've seen from him going from a left back into being one of the best, into being a right winger, then going on to be one of the best right wingers in world football. It's something that has warmed my heart, man. And I'm around Saka's age. We should almost share a birthday. And to see someone like that play for my favorite club, man, it's like seeing yourself play for your favorite club, man. So I love Bukayo Saka, and I just wish he continues to perform at the highest level, man. I can't speak any more about him, man. Can't speak any more about him.
Yeah, I do agree.
But
I do agree.
going on next, we have Gabriel Martinelli. You are another person, KP, who has spoke a wax lyrical about Martinelli, a very up and down season. So you let me know what you think of Gabriel Martinelli's 24-25 season.
Um, I put in average. I'll say for me, like it's not been good enough at all. Like in terms of the numbers, like he's played a lot of minutes. Obviously, albeit he did have a period of time where he was out of the team as well for that hamstring injury. But he hasn't scored enough goals. He hasn't got enough assists. I do think he's created a lot of chances. A lot of times, but like, I think he's underrated because he's been one of our main attackers that's played, majority of the season. Well, him and Trossard, I should say. So it's unfair to judge them so much, given the fact they've had so much minutes and load on them, so much work they had to put in as well,
Yeah.
in games. But yeah, like numbers wise, he hasn't been good enough. I wanted him off the back of last season where he was a bit underwhelming numbers wise as well. I don't think he's like progressed this season. I was hoping for, and obviously the injuries have contributed to that. I was hoping for the effect that Marino may have in the team to kind of open him up and sort of open up his game a bit more. I
Mhm.
do think when we see him used in the central area, especially that Liverpool game, you saw a lot of the threat that he adds, and you can tell that he's been wasted being a touchline winger, which he's just not that player. I do think he is underrated there because I think he puts in lovely crosses, especially on his left foot as well. I think it's underrated
Absolutely.
how many good crosses he puts into the box. Obviously, he doesn't get enough assists from those players to score it, but he's underrated in his ability there. I don't think he takes enough shots at all. Um, in the 1v1s that he's had, some of them he scored, some of them he hasn't scored this season, which I won't judge because players are going to miss and score some, but I think he needs to be better. I think we're definitely probably going to buy a player in that position, whether that's an upgrade or defo direct competition. Obviously, for him and both Trossard as well, that it will be there, but I think um, he's been average. I think the main thing Mikel has to do this season and the team is just every player, and that includes everyone that's whoever's going to be in the squad next season that's on this tier list, wherever we rank them. I think the team needs to be set up that everyone maximizes their strengths in their skill sets and not just the strength of the team, because I think then we'll start to
Mhm.
see a lot of players have a better season. Like if everyone's been used to their strengths and allowed to play to their maximum. But it's been an average to below average season for Martinelli. I put him in average because I think he's been one of our mainstays in the season. So yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna just go exactly with that. You mentioned something about shooting. Only 2.12 total shots per 90. That ranks him below like the half percentile. So you can see he's below average in that aspect in terms of forwards and getting shots off on goal. So it is something that's alarming, and I do agree with your point in terms of using players to their strengths. I talked a lot about this Barcelona squad that scored so many goals in Europe this season. And I think we like prototypical. Like if you look at their squad and look at our squad, I think we kind of match up well in terms of like pieces that we have. We have a lot of similar pieces in terms of the Rafinha that they have. It could easily be our Gabriel Martinelli in terms of you put him in that opportunity. Or a lot of Rafinha's goals are opportunities one on one at goal. And or Rafinha's also scored goals this season where he's taken a lot of good shots from outside the box as well. But I think you unlock that confidence in a player to get those goals and
Yeah.
see the ball hit the back of the net. Then you unlock that game where he starts to take more confidence on. And I just think I agree with you. Play to Martinelli's strengths. We've seen that ball in behind. Lewis Skelly is moving into midfield when he used to drive. I remember he drove past. I can't remember what game it was. He drove past some players, slipped through. Oh, Real Madrid drove past some players, slipped through Martinelli in the first half. Martinelli had a beautiful bread and butter finish, couldn't finish. If you start to give him more of those, at least 2 or 3 a game, I think Martinelli's stats are going to shoot back up to the
Yeah.
22-23 season like we've seen previously and before,
Yeah.
man.
I'll make a point when we get to the end of all the players about just one thing I just kind of
No,
got.
no problem. We're gonna end pretty quickly now. Kai Havertz, this is a really polarizing one. He's Arsenal's top scorer this season. He played a lot of minutes. You can see. Even, I remember the Wolves game, a Wolves game away. He literally fell out on his feet, fell to the floor. There's been
So
moments in this season where Kai Havertz has performed, and there's been moments where he's been like, "Oh God, Kai, man, how can you miss that?" Like,
I think
I can remember. I hear you, KP.
I think it's a difficult one to judge though.
That's a
Like
very difficult one to judge. I
I
think the
think
hardest player out of everyone, you know.
I think he's had a good season. I think
I th-
I
okay,
think he's only
I say
played
so
what,
too.
but I think he's only played what 36 games. He's got what 15 goals, 4 assists. Um, Played a lot of 90 minutes in within those games as well. Up until
Mhm.
he obviously didn't even get injured in the game, got injured in training. But like, yes, Man United at home, FA Cup game, Ipswich at home, and the Prem. I think was it again, Newcastle in the Carabao Cup first leg. I remember there's a few games where he's missing glaring opportunities, which every
Yep.
striker every striker misses. If you sign Sesko, sign Gokares, they all miss those chances. Haaland's missed those chances. Everyone misses those
Mhm.
chances. I'm not gonna judge it. It feels more when we know that we don't have that clinical, deadly guy that's gonna give us 25, 30, 40 goals. But funny enough,
Or
he
it's
was on
also
track. He was on
it's
track to getting numbers like that. Like he already had
not,
15 goals up until January, end of January. If he had played in the crunch time, who knows if he would have added another 10, 15 goals to that.
But you know what I
To get
also say, KP, we criticize Havertz a lot, and I mentioned it in one of my videos, and I do get this point from you. I remember you made a really good point in one of our conversations. You mentioned that we don't create enough chances. So when a player like Martinelli has that chance, that bread and butter chance against Real Madrid, or Havertz has that chance against thing against Man United, for example, how often have we gone on from there and created another clear cut chance for these same players? We don't
Mm,
really create that much clear cut chances, and whether that's down to maybe overall style of play on Mikel Arteta, or whether that's Odegaard having a below average season, another attacking fullback in Ben White not having the best season, Saka
mm.
in and out of the squad. Maybe all those things
This
could play a factor in it,
this
but I just
that
think,
was that was the point I was gonna make at the end of the
yeah,
test. I was gonna
yeah,
say like
hmm
just as a roundup, but you got it because I think um it's like hard. This is why like obviously I'll say at the end of the tier list because I'll judge all these players because it's kind of like a leveler I guess in the
yeah,
end. I'll say
yeah.
yeah, but I think has had a good season. Like to the standard of a player that hasn't played that much, he was playing nine. He has he's our top scorer. He's got a decent GNA for playing 36 games. Got 19 GA, which is above
Above,
he's
actually
contrib
above a
above
goal and assist
above
every
a
other
goal
game.
contribution like every other game, which is good. And end of the day, when it gets to crunch time where Saka start to come back and we start to kind of play, who knows if Havertz would have scored some chance. But like to your point that you said at the end, which I'll get to. But you can move on to Ethan.
Nothing besides have Ethan. For me, I think you can only talk about this guy right next to his boy. I think Ethan Waneri, in the minutes he has played this season, has been quality. When Odegaard went down, we were calling for that for him to come in and play a 10. When Saka went down, we were calling for him to come in and play the wing. And when he did play the wing, I remember that game against Leicester, we gave Mikel Moreno a lot of praise. But that game, Ethan Waneri was absolutely incredible. Before the assist, the way he was running the show up and down the pitch, hit the crossbar at one point with his weaker foot, and even performances other than that. I remember he scored again in Carabao Cup multiple times. Scored a great goal against City. That's up there, the top 25 goals of the league when you watch their compilation. Waneri has been absolutely brilliant. The only criticism I say to his season, obviously he's a young player, 17, 18 years old. Physically, he got to just grow into the stamina of the Premier League. In terms of playing those 90-minute performances and still affecting the game later into the game after the game has waned on for about 60, 75 minutes. You still want to see him show that quality and show that boost, but that's something that's going to build with more experience, more minutes, more physicality, and more playing in and around the first team. But for me, Ethan Waneri has to be in the good category. Breakout season for the young man, and I think he was brilliant this season.
Yeah, man, I put him same as you. I agree with everything you say. Like I think playing the minutes he played as well, probably you didn't expect to play. I hoped he played a bit more minutes, but getting 9 goals, 2 assists, some lovely goals in that. The one
Yep.
against Preston, the one against City, the one against Girona, the one against against Brighton. Just his performance against Leicester, where he was just the man of the match, just crazy. And yeah, it's been disappointing. Yeah, he does need to grow into his body. He does need to put on some muscle, put on some more stamina, adapt to the physical nature of the Premier League so he can last a bit more, because he was kind of always fading out of games, especially when he was starting that period where Saka was out and just playing on the right. But all in all, I think another Hayden Academy player coming into our team, showing how they're another worldly talent and one of the best talents in the world. And I'm pretty sure next season he's going to get a lot more minutes, whether that's right wing or in the 10. Now that we've got Zubimendi, I think we can actually use a number 10 rather than just playing 2 8s. Will kind of then now enable maybe a player like Ethan to kind of really show his own. So yeah, shout out to him. Good season. Very good season. Trossard.
Next, we have Leandro Trossard. 10 goals and 10 assists this season. And even though GA-wise, he's matched the GA from the previous season in 23-24, where he scored 17 goals with 3 assists. For me, I think you know me, KP. I'm someone that likes Trossard. I think he's a utility player, and it's a player that you're going to need in the squad. Someone that could come in and should play all aspects of the front line and even maybe a 10. I don't think this season was his best season for the Arsenal. I think 23-24 was better. And I think it was better than 22-23. Maybe you can make that argument. I know he came in and played half a season, so you can't really make that argument. But I think the 24-25 season for Trossard is one where I look back and say, I remember that Villa game, and we always talk about it, where he came in and he said, he made that face and made that statement like, I'm the guy, play me. I don't feel like he really took his opportunities when he did. I know he scored a crucial goal against Spurs, won us that game. I mean, he's had moments in the season. I remember he left Pedro Porro, almost tore his ACL. So he had some moments. Trossard has had some moments in the squad, but I think for me, if you're looking at his game for this squad, I think he holds the ball too long. And I think when the ball goes up to him, even as a center forward in the PSG game, I see him doing it, just holds the ball too long for me. I think he tries to make things happen. And he tries to prove why he needs his start in the team. And I could always credit a player that wants to come in and prove why they deserve a start. But for me, I think it has to be an average season. Average season. I think that might be a bit harsh. I'd probably teeter somewhere between good and average. But again, when you look at some of the players I have in good already, and you look at some of the players we have in average, can you really say he's had a better season than those guys that are in good, or just a season that's on par with those guys in good? You can make an argument, but for me, I'd have to lean average. I don't know what you'd say, KP. What are your thoughts?
No, I agree. Average. Like to use the stats point. Obviously, Odegaard has decent stats for the season as well, but we put him in below average because that's to his standard. And obviously, Trossard, I think he's been again similar to Martinelli. He's played a lot of minutes. He's been one of our most consistent players. in terms of availability and having to play because of injuries. And he's probably started more games than he's ever started in an Arsenal team. And
Yeah.
the fact that he has got less goals, obviously, I will make the point at the end, so I'm gonna kind of consider that for a lot of attackers and midfielders. But um, yeah, like I just think, yeah, to the point of what you're saying, for his quality, because I think Trossard's a very good football player. He holds on the ball too much, tries to make. I know he wants. He has a lot of heroism in him.
Yeah.
Like I can tell, he wants to
Yeah.
be the guy to have made the difference, and not necessarily. Not saying there's nothing about the team, but I know he wants to be the guy. I think it's gone past the stage where Trossard should be starting games for us, like because I think he can tell. I can tell he's going to enter that stage where physically he's going to probably start to decline where he can't be as effective for a long amount of minutes. Obviously, if we do sign a winger, which we do expect, we don't expect to start. So where he should be staying, he can be effective on that role where he plays, starts some games, comes to the bench some games, and gets back to being that the guy that maybe decides games and contributes that way. But I think for the amount of games that he has started the season, for the amount of, obviously albeit maybe out of convenience because of injuries, but he hasn't, upped his goal tally. He hasn't gone on from there. He hasn't scored in the big moments. He hasn't been clutch. He hasn't taken enough shots as well, which is kind of disappointing because Trossard does have a good shot on him as well. But yeah, I put him average. I think he's been good. He's played. He came in and stepped in when Odegaard was out playing in that 10 position. Done all right. That two-man kind of partnership with Havertz. He done well. Playing strike when Marino wasn't playing and playing left wing. Obviously, Lusaka was out. So I'll say just average season. Yeah.
Moving on, I agree with you. Moving on, we got Gabriel Jesus. For me, a player I'd have to put sadly in below average, and that's not to the fault of his own. Suffered another ACL injury to the opposite knee. No, I feel for him so much because in that December period, right before that injury, KP, you especially, I remember you making videos about it in terms of how Jesus on what Jesus unlocks in his team. And I mean, at the time we didn't have a out and out nine. Havertz was getting a lot of criticism. Jesus was coming back from his injuries, and he was just finally hitting form. Those 2 goals against Palace, the goals before. I remember he scored another 2 goals against Palace in the league as well, and then had a brilliant performance against Brentford right before his injury. It's just sad to see, man, that he just can't stay fit in his Arsenal career. And his Arsenal tenure has been blighted by injuries. But when he's been fit, for me, as a footballer, just take away his stats and you look at the eye test. He's quality. He is a quality footballer. Same thing we said about Leandro Trossard. In terms of in and around the ball, sometimes, yes, I agree. He might hold the ball on. He might hold the ball too long as well. But the link-up play Jesus has, I can't remember what goal it was, man. But his link-up play with Saka, I remember. I just think so many games are flashing through my brain about calling moments for these players. But Gabriel Jesus is a player that I love. I wish he worked out at Arsenal, and I wish he was the 9 that when we bought in 20 for the 22-23 season that kicked on and won us more silverware for this club. But it's very difficult to see a way back for him in this squad, especially with Arsenal moving forward to look at different options as a number 9. Sad to see Gabriel Jesus come to this, but for me, it has to be a below average season again for him, man. Just sad to see.
Yeah, I think I'll put to be consistent. I'll put him below average. I think obviously he's not when beginning of the season. It wasn't like he was confident. It wasn't like he was scoring goals. He wasn't effective. Obviously, then when he got to that period, November, December, before the ACL injury, he kind of looked back to himself, looked fit. The hat trick against Palace in the League Cup, and then obviously the brace, a couple of days after against them again. Obviously, just to start with, you can tell like obviously when he plays, what he can offer, as you're saying, because of his footballing ability, strength, his technical ability. When he plays in that 9 position, he really unlocks everyone else, especially in that team, because of his ability. It is sad, the injuries have kind of killed his career, not just Arsenal career, it's killed his career because now he won't be able to be the player that he is and was now, especially now that he's got ACLs on both knees, unless he's going to put in immense work, recovery with the doctors and that, and enable him to play. But the way that he plays, the explosion is probably going to be gone, which is sad because how good he is.
So
Obviously, he still has 2 years on his contract. I think they said he's going to be back, December, January. So even if we do sign a striker or other attacking players, like having a player like Jesus that can come back and still be in the squad, still be used, obviously injuries and all the rotations still happen, maybe still might be good if he's used in moments and comes in and can be pleased in certain games. Because I think after this next rating, I'll get to it. But yeah, below average, I think I do respect the period that he had in the season where he kind of reminded. I feel like most of these players in the below average section have had either a game or a period where they've been good, like Jorginho, White, Odegaard, Zinchenko, even when he was playing Remember against PSV in the 10, a couple of
Mhm.
good moments there, and obviously Jesus that period, yeah. But moving on to this last player, I'll even take it up for you. Put him in the bad section, bro. Like, like I'm, and obviously, fam, I said it in the beginning. Obviously, I'm always a guy that tries to be positive, even if Arsenal sign a player that I don't necessarily like, or which is not no, there's not that many players in world football that I don't like. It's maybe not people that I don't rate, but I think Sterling's signing just because it where it came from, where we didn't want him, and then we ended up getting him because we didn't get anyone else. Edu signing him, signing Neto, Edu leaving. Not saying because of those signings, but it seems that those was like the final string. Sterling's game, like only getting one goal this season, which was even if I could tap in, missing a lot of chances, just not being able to control the ball, show any level of confidence,
Yep.
comfortability, playing just normal. Forget even just playing up
Normal
to
football, yeah,
a
just normal.
standard of like a team challenge, just normal. Let's get the ball, get a good first touch, dribble inside. Obviously, a couple of decent moments. His assist for Trossard against Everton. The decent moments. I remember, I think in Carabao Cup, decent
Yeah,
moments,
Carabao
but
Cup games. Yeah,
overall, to the player that he is, deep in that he's only still 29, so it's not like he's done fully age wise, and that doesn't really count this day and age. And just like remembering in Chelsea, in his moments, there was decent moments for Chelsea. He's just been so poor, been non-helpful. We've had injury issues to Saka, Havertz, to Martinelli at times, and he hasn't even been really trustworthy to play. Obviously, even when you're a player that is young, 17, when he was in the team and started playing, starting the team, he didn't have the fitness. You couldn't rely on Sterling. Like we actually couldn't. Like Mikel couldn't rely on Sterling. And in the
yeah.
end, that's an insult to him and the player that he is. Like where you're not even reliable, even just offer a cameo type role where you can just even give us something. You're not even getting any goals and assists. But obviously, that's just in the bad area. I don't know what you have to say for Sterling, but that's just me.
Nah, man, you say it all. I'm contrasting to you with slightly. The only factor is I like Sterling, man. I really do. And when I signed him, I really wanted it to work, man. And I'm someone that says I can openly hold my hands up and say when we signed him, I mean it was like last chance resort. There was last chance saloon because we absolutely needed to sign a forward or some kind of forward. We ended up with Raheem Sterling. I held the faithful. He's a player that previously I held in high regard. But it's probably one of the worst signings, loan signings in a very long time I can remember Arsenal doing, man. Even players like Ceballos came in. I remember there were other players like Dennis Suarez. Even I think he's down there with Dennis Suarez, man. He's down there, man.
Dennis Suarez, Kim Karlstrom, like who else can I remember? Like
It's some bad ones, man. But
like
Raheem Sterling
just
is
it,
finding himself in that category,
like
man.
like like the one thing I will credit him before, like it was not all bad. I'm pretty sure he's probably been very very good in
In the
the
locker,
dressing rooms
in the
and
room,
trains and
dressing room,
in
yeah.
the training grounds for those like the younger up and coming England players, Wanyeri, Lewis Skelly, Downham, other players even around Cabia, Butler, Deji, Saka, just for him to have a player of that experience, the level of what he's won and that to be in and around that. Like that's why I kind of those players in the bad slash average, so below average bad category, even though on the pitch they probably wasn't effective, I do probably give their shout outs for off the pitch what they probably would have done for both the new signings, the players that have
Of
been playing,
course,
because
absolutely.
a lot of them are experienced, either playing at the higher level, winning things, and like where I have to respect what they probably done behind closed doors, but on the ball and on the pitch, bye. And the point I just want to make to go back to the creativity point is just like even though like obviously everyone we've kind of ranked there, and I'm pretty sure we might make a change or two. I don't know. I'm kind of good at the rankings, but
Yeah, I'm
the,
good. I'm looking at the list now, and I'm thinking I'm pretty good with the
yeah,
list. I'm
because
pretty
now that
good.
we've got like now that you kind of gave me that the three players that were in the category, that kind of makes sense who they are. The good is that we've described everything. I think the creativity, and this is where I kind of go into Mikel. I think I give Mikel a big shout for this season because it's not been easy playing this season, given the fact there's been so many injuries. I do give him some responsibility in terms of obviously how much I put that in terms of the squad building from the summer. Obviously, I know he did want players in January, but we still finished second, still had some of the best defensive records with all the 6 red cards all season or 7 red cards, I can't remember what it is, all season, injuries to up and down all over the pitch, and just in general the pressure of what it is. But he still played well. But that what I need, and that probably goes from him and the team, whoever we need to become the team that creates more chances. Like we need to put more pressure on the goal of the oppositions for the possession that we have, the dominance, the lack of possession that we give other teams. We need to put more pressure on opposition goals. Like it's not even just about the scoreline of games. It's just more about like when we're watching the game. Like if we didn't win a game, it was because of the fact that just no one had the shooting boots on, not because I just saying that Havertz misses a one clear cut chance, or Martinelli or Marino or Saka misses the one clear cut chance that we get in the game, and then obviously which they should have missed anyways, but that's the only chance they're getting that's clear cut. Like where whilst in other teams, Liverpool, City, Chelsea, they're getting timeless chances, they're missing it, but they're getting these chances, and this is why you're seeing Liverpool and PSGs and Barca's where there's even their bench players are getting 19, 20 goal GA per season because the teams create those chances and need us to get there, and hopefully, God willing, no injuries. The players that come back don't have no injuries, but if we bring in the signings, whether it's that or just Mikel emphasizing how we play, or the players, the tactics changing to emphasize that, we need to create more chances. Then, I'm pretty sure I just saying your Trossards, your Martinellis, I'm joking. Yeah, your Trossards, your Martinellis, your Havertz's, your Jesus's, maybe your Wanyeris, your Sakas, and even the older guards, maybe, and whoever else we bring in, Downham's, Vieira's, whatever you sign in Sesko, maybe Wingard, like they can score a lot of goals, and there's not a pressure on one individual player to get that stat. There's not a pressure on one individual chance in the game that defined the game or that defined us, because it shouldn't be one miss should define the game. We should remember that miss and be like, oh, that was diabolical, but it shouldn't be like, oh, do you know what I mean? Like, because it's kind of sad, and I feel like it's to balance it out. It feels hard to judge some of these attacking players when, as you're saying, they're only getting that one chance a game, and some games they score it, cool, they're the heroes. Some games they miss it, and it's like, oh, but they should be getting at least 2 or 3 of those, and that's like per player per game. Like, okay, that's all I have to say. That's me. So you might have to speak on that as well, but that's what it is.
Nah, I agree with everything you said, man, and I think you wrap it up pretty well. People, this is our tier list. This is how we rank the Arsenal players 24-25 seasons. As you can see,
what would I, before I interrupt you, what rating would you give to the season? If you put a rating for this season as a whole, like what number are you gonna put?
Well, if we're gonna be consistent, if we're talking about expectation to what was reality and taking into all the aspects that happened to the squad, I say it's probably like a 6. I say it's probably a 6. I'm not gonna sit here and say a 3 or a 4. Oh, the season was garbage. It was a bad season in terms of our expectation. Absolutely, we wanted to win Premier League title. We didn't. We wanted to win. We wanted to get far in the Champions League. We did. We had special moments in the Champions League. We wanted to win a cup. We didn't. We went to the semi-final. We fell to Newcastle. The board failed us in the transfer windows, and that helped. That also added to the taste of the season going to where it landed. If Arsenal signed a striker, let's just say we got a Sesko in January, and we still ended up where we ended up, you're looking at it kind of differently, but you're still ultimately looking at it with disappointment. But I think ultimately I give it a 6. I wouldn't say there's all doom and gloom. I wouldn't say there's no moments. I mean, we took a lot from the season. Waneri came through, Lewis Skelly came through. Those are all both bright moments. Declan Rice had his moment that was brilliant. We saw some great saves from Raya. We saw Saka at the beginning of the season absolutely turn on. So it was up for me. The Barclays, other than Mo Salah, he was up there, one of the best players in the Premier League this season and one of the best right wingers in the world. We saw some good goals. We saw some bad ones given away. Overall, a 6 is, I think, a fair answer for me.
Yeah, same. I'll give the season a 6. As I said, we expected us to win a trophy at least. We wanted to win the Prem, or at least compete. We didn't compete in the Prem title race much. We did try. Champions League were very close. We got to where we expected us to get to, what we projected us to get, which obviously is good. It felt more painful because obviously we wasn't in the Prem title race, so then we kind of put all our eggs in the Champions League basket, which is why getting knocked out at that point where we had no other trophies to win, it burned more. But yeah, I was just saying it was a poor season for our standard and some of the football that we were playing, like in terms of the entertainment value, but it wasn't 17th or 16th like some other teams, even though maybe some teams have won a trophy, and the level of consistency. So I can't be so harsh. I'm just saying the responsibility goes on Mikel and
not to touch on anybody else's team, but I remember for years when Arsenal was winning trophies and papering over the cracks, everyone had a lot to say about this Arsenal squad. But it's surprising now how winning a trophy now is when one team wins these the conference league or like or winning these trophies. It's like, oh, it's a big deal. Top four now is a big deal. I saw Chelsea jumping up and down in their dressing room celebrating top four. So look how the standard has changed around
Is
football. But
is it surprising, or is it just when it's Arsenal, the goalposts
yeah,
shift for however
as always.
anyone wants to direct the argument, and when it's every other team, it's calm, like as it should be normal, like where you should be able to celebrate something that you celebrate, whether that's a big trophy or small trophy, or to get into position in the table that you wanted to, or your target. But if it's Arsenal, it gets criticized, and if it's other teams, it doesn't. So like that's just a sad thing. But shout out to the boys this season that tried anyways, because we were hit with silly PGML decisions all season, injuries that are so unlucky to, all over the park, and just in general, a board and the team that just didn't, obviously, albeit maybe they were waiting to get in better. That's why they didn't really act in January, which I can understand now, given the fact that, there's so much happening in and around, players contract renewals, and, signings getting done, and, players that were getting linked to, and all this kind of stuff, which is way different than what we remember last season. We were starving for news. It was like, it was only
Yep.
we looked to that one player, then that's it, or then it's the next player, and then that's it. It wasn't like multiple players at the same time. It was like, yeah, it would have been Sesko. Then when Sesko thing was done, it was then Calafiori. Then when Calafiori took all the way to gun, there was Marino that took long. Then it was like, oh, maybe is it what winger? I mean, now it's like there's so many players. So I can understand it, but it's disappointing. I just hope that they've learned from this season, both everyone in Arsenal to, start from now to do the work to kind of prepare us to get ready to allow us to have the best chance to win next year, man. And I give it a 6 as well. I'm just saying, I give it 6, and I just hope that
All
that we
right.
learn from the season
Finally,
and we get out
one
of this.
word answer before we close out. Your player of the season. One name. No reasoning.
Rice,
One name.
Rice,
Right?
you.
I lean Rice as well. As people don't
I'm a,
forget to like. I hear you.
my moment of the season and my shout of the season is, as I say, Lewis Skelly breaking
Yep.
through, and obviously Declan Rice's free kick against Real Madrid, and Lewis Skelly's goal against City,
City.
doing that celebration, and just
Yep. Those I'd have to agree with most of those. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe people to both of our channels. KP's on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Very, very close, people. So show us some love. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button for KP, and also hit the like button, hit the subscribe button for Gunner Street. Help me get to 2,000 subscribers. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Like I said, show some love to the video and leave down below who's your player of the season and what would you rank Arsenal's season out of 10. Thank you for all your love and support, people. Couldn't have do it without you. And peace.
peace.